How's everyone? Awesome. I love that answer, Matthew. Outstanding. I want to begin by sharing a word with you that I think the Lord has put in my heart. And as long as these electronics get going, okay. It's a word that I've sensed all this week. And I just want to take a moment before I get going with the message to share this with you. And it is that I believe we have been in isolation. And now I believe it's going beyond what it was meant to be. And I have sensed that for some people, this is beginning to affect them. And it kind of goes both ways, or kind of goes two different ways. For some people, this is really beginning to affect them and beginning to feel like they're abandoned. Like they're alone, they are abandoned, nobody's calling me, nobody's checking on me. And I'm making a conscious effort to touch base with as many of you as I can, and not only me, but the rest of our staff. I know that Charlotte touches a lot of you as well, and so does Cynthia and Ellen. But I've sensed that, and to go along with that, there is a little bit of that. What I've sensed, what comes with that is a little bit of a spirit of offense, a little bit of feeling that you don't care. And I don't mean me, I don't mean you, but I mean there is this general kind of a spirit that's in our nation already, this spirit of offense, and I think is beginning to seep in. And the reason I'm telling you this is so that you may be able to stand in the strength of the Lord and be against that and not allow that to come into your life. I'm not saying that us should not be contacting one another, but I'm saying that when it doesn't happen, when it takes time, when it comes a little later than you thought, or that maybe even you needed it, guard your heart and don't let the enemy come in and misinterpret the intentions or the timing or things like that. Oftentimes, the misinterpretation of the enemy is far worse than the deed or the absence of a deed. So guard your heart against the offense that the enemy is trying to bring. So, all right, that's all the preaching you were going to get today. Now, now we're going to get into the Word. And so I'm beginning a series based on the book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy. There's so much that I wish I could say, that we have said actually in the past about the book itself, the name, the implications of the sermons that are in this book, so much more. You can find a lot of that in our past teachings that we have done, for instance, last year, and I think we've gone 2-3 years already over the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy. And so you can go in and feast on some of that information and revelation. We're going to touch a little bit of this, of some of that here today, but I believe the Lord is giving me a series for today. When I began to study a few weeks ago in preparation to teach, to enter into this book, my heart immediately went a specific direction, and I knew the Lord wanted me to pursue that as a series for us today. So I'm beginning this series, and I'm not sure how many messages this is going to be, but I'm calling it Apostasy, Avoid the Coming Destruction. Avoid the coming destruction. Not distraction, but destruction. And I have this theme of apostasy, and I couldn't shake it off. We see it all in this reading for this week. We see it really throughout the book of Deuteronomy. The impassionate plea of Moses with Israel. At times, it goes beyond a plea and it turns into prophecy. And Moses would say, you actually are going to do this. And when you do, here's how to return back to the Lord. What a grace. What compassion. So, I want to take a passage today in chapter 4, just the first few verses of chapter 4 in the book of Deuteronomy. And I want to talk to you about one of the ways that we can avoid the coming destruction, the apostasy that we know is supposed to happen. Yeshua said concerning the one who betrayed him, that there was supposed to be a man to betray him. It was prophesied. But woe of him who actually, by his own actions, in his own will, decided to betray him. It is prophesied that the church will commit apostasy. And I'll explain a little bit what that means. It is prophesied. It doesn't mean it has to be you. It doesn't mean it has to be me. People will choose to go this way out of their own volition. And what I feel tasked to bring to you is a series of messages to compare what we see in the book of Deuteronomy with what we're seeing in our culture today, so that we can find the solutions that God gave Israel in how to avoid apostasy, so that we can then also follow those solutions for us today. Many moons ago, when I began to study prophecy, eschatology, and I remember I was in my Bible Institute. I was 21, 22, not too long ago. And I was taking piano class. And I took 3 semesters of piano. I learned nothing. But anyways, in the 4th semester, then we began to study eschatology. And I quit piano. And my whole time was dedicated to study prophecy, eschatology, and that I found a passion of mine. And at the time, I remember thinking that this particularly this theme of the apostasy of the church, this was really for those liberal denominations, that this will never come to the Baptists, to the Southern Baptists, it would never come. To Pentecostals, it would never come. But you and I know better today. Just yesterday, I saw about a Southern Baptist pastor that came out that he was homosexual. And he felt like he had a right to continue in his ministry. He had a calling from the Lord. I'm not sure what Lord, but and let me tell you, we're really not called to a ministry of condemnation. We are not called to a ministry of condemnation. We are called to a ministry of true love. True love. Not the love that says nothing. That's not love. But to the love that says, you are a person. You are precious to the Lord. I am going to serve you. I am going to follow the Spirit's lead in this relationship that I find myself with you. And I'm going to love you the right way. I'm going to show the righteousness of God. The true love of God. Anyway, so this has become an issue a little too close for comfort. This issue of apostasy in Bible doctrine and in morality, in actual practice. There is an area, though, that we couldn't have dreamed that would have something to do with apostasy. It has to do with politics. It has to do with philosophy. And it has to do with religion. But it has to do with a religion that we never thought would be in the mix. That is Islam. Friends, the real thrust, the vision to which some in our country want to take our nation, our country, our society, our economy, the real vision is actually Islam. It goes through socialism and liberalism and communism. But at the end of it, Islam is waiting. Creating chaos has always been a hallmark of socialism and communism, because for them, they need to show how bankrupt capitalism is so that people will choose an alternative. I know what I'm talking about. I was born and raised in Venezuela. I saw people sick and tired of the corruption of the capitalist governments with a reason. You can only imagine in a country that has 25% of the world's oil in one country, the oceans of dollars in which these people swam. And it went straight to their pockets. The socialists and the communists were waiting. And they saw the moment and they seized the moment when people were discontented and ready to try an alternative. They were right there. 20 years later, it is a curse. I saw a study not too long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, that said that Venezuela's level of poverty is below Haiti. And it's now comparable to some African countries. What a shame. These African nations that have nothing, that live in droughts from year to year, that an economy with this kind of resources will come to this level. Make no mistake, it is all done intentionally so that people will continue to depend on the government for a handout. I know. This study concluded that the minimum wage for Venezuelans is $2.77 a month. A month. I already knew that. My brother told me. My brother who lives there. He had to quit his job as a security guard because it cost him more to have a job than to stay home. And I said, I can send you $10 a month. That's more than 3 times what you will make at this job. So I'm saying all of this because there is a plan for all of this chaos, all of this confusion and anarchy in society. It is all designed for one solution, for one way to bring order. That way to bring order is called Sharia. It's called Sharia law. That's what's going to bring order. That's their plan. Why do you think the liberals and Islamic politicians run together? It makes no sense. Why do you think Islamic politicians will support homosexuality when they abhor homosexuality? It's a strategy. The strategy is to destroy the Judeo-Christian society of the West, that it will crumble and be dismantled so they can come in and be the friends that they have been all along and bring this one solution. What does it have to do with Deuteronomy, you ask? I'm going to show you in a moment. Because really we're talking about Israel in Deuteronomy about to enter into a land in which there already was a culture, a religion, a society that was designed to entice them, to allure them away from the Lord, to commit apostasy. Apostasy is the equivalent of adultery. You commit apostasy when you have a covenant with a God, with a Lord, and then you abandon him. You abandon the actual political and military agreement that you've made with this overlord that came and, say, rescued you. Rescue your economy, rescue your military. That's the type of covenants that they will make in the ancient Near East. But it is equivalent to a marriage. And so committing apostasy is the equivalent of committing adultery. And so apostasy is walking away from the Lord as your husband. That's what Deuteronomy is all about. How to avoid falling for that. So it is very practical for us today. Come with me to chapter 4 in the book of Deuteronomy. And I'm going to read the first 4 verses, make some comments along the way, and we're going to camp on a couple of words here, and hopefully I will bring you safely to lunch in a couple of hours. Not just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. So Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 1. O Israel. Does it sound familiar? What do you think the Hebrew is here? Shema Israel. O Israel, listen to the statutes and the judgments. Listen to the statutes and the judgments, which I am teaching you to perform, to do. We were talking about asa, right? During the worship, that's the word asa. That I'm teaching you to do, to perform, so that there's a purpose, in doing the statutes and the judgment, and I'm going to tell you in a moment what the statutes and the judgments are, there's a purpose, and it is that you may live. That you may live. Let's not read too quickly through that. We just finished reading through the book of Numbers, and the second half of the book of Numbers is all about death. People are dropping like flies, left and right. The rebellion of this, the rebellion of that, and the issue of the water, the issue of meat, the curses that turn into blessing, but then turn around and found a way to curse Israel, and so many more died. People are dying left and right. That's the context to this. If you do the judgments and the statutes of the Lord, you will live, that you may live, and go in and take possession of the land which the Lord, the God of your fathers, is giving you. All right. The statutes and the judgments. You see, all of the commandments that we have in the Torah can be classified in at least three different buckets. You can put them in three different buckets. There are other minor classifications and categories, but the three big ones are, these are two, the statutes and the judgments. Judgments in Hebrew is mishpatim. So we get the word judges from that. And judgments has to do, for instance, with the commandments that we read of in Exodus 21, 22, 23. We have 42 cases over there, all speaking of damages that we cause to one another, like stealing, or my animal that I loaned you and it died in your possession. What do we do in that case? It has to do with criminal law. My slave, I struck my slave, I put out his eye, now I need to compensate, there are damages, all of those things. The statutes, though, they take you in a different direction. The statutes in Hebrew is the word chukim. So the chukim and the mishpatim, there are two kinds of major categories of commandments. We can call the judgments the civil and criminal commandments, but the statutes, the chukim, they have all and everything to do with worship. The Lord said, when you enter the land, do not worship me according to the statutes, to the chukim of Egypt, from where you come, or according to the statutes of the Canaanites, where you are going. The statutes have everything to do with worship. So, between the judgments and the statutes, the mishpatim and the chukim, you have what Yeshua called the summary of the law, of the Torah. To love God, that's the chukim, the worship commandments, and to love your neighbor, the mishpatim, the civil and criminal kind of commandments. So Moses is saying, if I'm teaching you the chukim and the mishpatim, how to love God and how to love man, if you live by that, you are not going to die physically, because you are not going to rebel against the Lord and die in one of these plagues that seem to be happening every other week. You're going to be faithful to me like my servants Caleb and Joshua. Even Moses fell under that. Aaron, Miriam could not enter the land. They died in the wilderness. So, do these commandments. Love me in the way that I instruct you to do. worship me according to my commandments, love people in the way that I specify for you to love people, and you will live. So it says in verse 2, you shall not add to the word which I am commanding you, nor take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you. Do not add, do not subtract, do not take away. We're familiar with this, and we quote this, and we use this to express our doctrine of, a high doctrine of the Scriptures, of the inspiration and the fact that Scriptures are inerrant. But this is actually a little more practical, because the context here, again, has to do with the Hukim and the Mishpatim. So, don't add to the Hukim. Don't add to my worship commandments. Don't take away from them. In other words, don't teach people, oh, you'll be fine. You won't die. You can go ahead and do that. That's old. That's not the heart of God. That's not who He is. That actually is taking away or adding to the Word of God, to the commandments about worship. So that is actually the context, not so much the doctrine of the Bible, although that is a good application. Verse 3, your eyes have seen what the Lord has done in the case of Baal Peor. So the case of Baal Peor, if you will recall, going back to the book of Numbers, you have Balak and Balaam attempting to curse the people of Israel unsuccessfully. When they tried several times, then they devised a different plan. So they said, you know what? I bet you if we show these boys some beautiful girls that are going to entice them, and you can invite them to your sacrifice, come and worship your idols, their God is not going to like that. He is going to punish them. How about we try that? If what you want is to curse Israel, and their God refuses to curse them, I have a way to make Him punish them. They tried it, and it worked. So they allured Israel, some in Israel, into apostasy. That's why Moses is using this case here. That's why he says, you actually seen this. And let me tell you, this wasn't too long ago for them. We may think, oh, this was a few chapters ago. They were in the wilderness. Now they're about to enter the land. A few weeks ago, we went through the chronology of the book of Numbers. And it is amazing how it helps. It helps us to see how close together all of these events were. So possibly this issue of Baal Peor happened within this 40th year. So I would give it less than a year, actually. These things are fresh in their minds. You saw it with your own eyes. You saw what the Lord did. What the Lord has done in the case of Baal Peor. We're going to come back to this, to Baal Peor and what that means. And it says that you saw what the Lord has done for all the men who followed Baal Peor. For all the men who followed Baal Peor. The word follow here is halach. To walk. They walked after like a disciple in imitation. Receiving Baal Peor's teachings and conforming your life to that teaching. It's a philosophy of life. It's a political worldview. That's following Baal Peor. Because when you follow the Lord, He gives you the same. He gives you a philosophy of life. He gives you not only a set of beliefs, but a whole structure for conducting your business, society, economy, and politics. So they follow Baal Peor, and it says that the Lord your God has destroyed them from among you. And actually, in the Hebrew, it doesn't say them, it says him. The Lord your God has destroyed him. Like, dude, this isn't some generic warning here. I'm talking to you. So, the Lord your God has destroyed them from among you. Verse 4. But you, who held fast to the Lord your God, are alive today, every one of you. You who held fast to the Lord. So let's begin to take a look at some of these phrases, some of these words, to discover how, in a practical way, we could avoid this issue of apostasy, this destruction that happened to them and that will happen to all of those who abandon the Lord and are unfaithful to Him. All right, let's talk about the issue of Baal Peor first. In Numbers 25, verse 1, we read, while Israel remained at Shittim, the people began to play the harlot. You see the relationship between marital unfaithfulness and apostasy. The people began to play the harlot with the daughters of Moab, for they invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel joined themselves to Baal Peor. That is a technical word here. They joined themselves. The way you do this is through a sacrifice and through partaking, eating together of the sacrifice. So when you come to, you may recall 1 Corinthians 8. The reason why you don't want to eat the meat sacrificed to idol is because you will end up fellowshipping with demons. That's exactly what's taking place here. Sitting at the table and partaking of this sacrifice with those who worship Baal Peor and sacrifice this meat to that demon caused them to join themselves to Baal Peor. Verse 3. So Israel joined themselves to Baal Peor, and the Lord was angry against Israel. The Lord said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people and execute them in broad daylight before the Lord, so that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. So Moses said to the judges of Israel, each of you slay his men who have joined themselves to Baal Peor. Now, you know the word Baal, right? We hear, when it says Baal Peor, Peor is a place. So this is the Baal of Peor. And that's how it's translated here at the end of verse 5. They joined themselves to Baal of Peor. And the word Baal means Lord, husband. The word Peor, though, is very interesting. In Isaiah 5, verse 14, we read, therefore, Sheol has enlarged its throat and opened its mouth without measure. The word open is related to the word Peor. So it's the opening. In this case, it's an opening that represents Sheol. This is the pit of hell. And this is the Lord of Peor, of this throat, this mouth wide open to devour you. That's the implication of fellowshipping with this Spirit. You will be devoured. And that's exactly what happened. The word destroyed, let's go back to Deuteronomy 4, verse 3. When it says that the Lord your God has destroyed them, or destroyed him, from among you. The word destroyed here, it's going to sound a little familiar. The word is shamad. Shamad, ending with a D. Sounds like Shema, right? But it actually also sounds like shalom. If you think of it, you just put an L in the middle, a lamed, and you will have shalom. You have the first and the third consonant, the sh sound and the M. Shamad. And you add the D at the end, so you make this word destroy. And it actually these words are actually related because the word shalom means completeness. What's amazing is that when you write it out, when you have the sh sound and the L sound and the M sound of shalom, the L in the middle represents the staff of the shepherd. But the shin at the beginning speaks of teeth that devour. And the M at the end of the word represents the ocean that is the chaos of the multitude. So, you have shalom when the shepherd comes and inserts himself on your behalf to rescue you, to deliver you from being devoured by the chaos. The shepherd comes to rescue you from being devoured by the chaos. So you have the chaos that devours, and so you come to this word destruction, shamad, and you take the L out, you take the shepherd's staff, and you put a D sound at the end, shamad, a dalet. And a dalet is a door. So rather than shalom, completeness, now you take away the intervention of the shepherd and you add a door. What you have is destruction. It's being devoured by a chaos to which you open the door. That's what happened with Baal Peor. That's what happened to the people that joined themselves, who attached themselves to this spirit. They opened themselves to a devouring Sheol kind of a devouring spirit that brings chaos. And you know, we are seeing this today. We are seeing a Peor kind of a spirit from Sheol devouring with their words. Devouring with their words. Bringing chaos. The chaos comes from the waters, the many waters, the oceans, the multitudes. There's a chaos with multitudes in our country today. It's devouring those who open the door. Those who open the door. To open the door actually means to legitimize something. That's what opening the door. When you open the door, then you give a right. You give legal right. And you know what's amazing? This word legitimize, the beginning of that word leg, L-E-G, is related to the word law. in Latin. So to legitimize is to make legal. I was watching a baseball game last night. Rangers won. Did you know that? There was a baseball game with no people in it. Wrong. wrong. And in every game, pretty much, they had a ceremony in which they were legitimizing BLM. Now, I'm going to be the first to tell you, and I've said this before, I believe in lowercase BLM. I don't believe in uppercase BLM. You see, uppercase BLM, Black Lives Matter, is an organization that is based on hatred and it is based on anti-Semitism.
That's right.
Do not be confused. They do not care
That's right.
about black people or any kind of people. I may play this video for you next week, at least part of it. But it's a video in which a score of these people from the organization BLM are expressing their beliefs that police brutality actually comes from the Israeli military training police forces in the U.S. So it is anti-Semitism. That's this organization. Now, to have it officially in a baseball game as part of the inauguration of the season and all of this, that is legitimizing an organization that is confessedly anti-Semitic. It boggles the mind that one would, in the name of anti-racism, one would embrace anti-Semitism. Now, there is a connection there. And it is that, and it's all over this video. I'll show you this video next week. Because what they are all saying in this video is expressing a kind of fraternality, a kind of connection between the struggle against racism in America and connecting it to the Palestinian struggle. So the movement is 100% anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. That's the real root. And the reason is that not only are the founders, and some of the founders, not only are they communists, but some of them are actually Islamic in faith. That's where it connects. That's where their vision is to create chaos, so this country is devoured by you and me opening a legal door to them. So they can have the legal right to bring this country under Sharia law. And Americans cannot discern that, can't see it, refuse to see it. That is apostasy. And it is coming not only to our society as a post-Christian society, but it's coming to the church. It's coming to believers. Believers are believing in this. And it is joining themselves to a spirit like Baal Peor. the Lord of chaos that devours. But I don't want us to miss Moses' solution to this, how to avoid this coming destruction, this coming devouring through chaos. His solution is simple, and it is also based on the image of marriage. Because if apostasy is the spiritual equivalent of adultery, then his solution is to cling to your husband, to cling to him who is the husband. So he says it here in verse 4, chapter 4 of Deuteronomy. He says, "But you who held fast to the Lord your God are alive today." That word, the word held fast, is the same that we read in Genesis when the Lord says, "The man shall cleave to his wife." It's the same word. And that's the concept here. It helps us understand how we are to pursue our relationship with the Lord. Forsaking all others. As Job said, even if he kills me, I will still trust in him. So no matter in sickness and in health, if you feel like he allowed you to get sick, I will not stop trusting in him. I will always know the fault is not in him. It may not even be with me. It may be the fallen human race of which we are a part of. But I will not allow myself to be offended at my husband. I will not allow myself. That's the open door today, the spirit of offense, through which chaos comes and you are devoured. That's the door. So he says, cling. You who held fast, you who clung to the Lord, are alive today. Let me read you a couple of verses and conclude with this. Deuteronomy 10, verse 20. Actually, let me go back. If we can do Genesis 31, 23. Genesis 31, 23. In Genesis 31, you have Laban. You will remember he is Jacob's uncle. When Jacob fled in hiding, and when Laban found out, even though Jacob had a few days ahead, he was traveling with cattle and children, so he was going slow. And so Laban went to pursue Jacob. So watch what it says, Genesis 31, 23. Then Laban, took kinsmen with him and pursued him a distance of 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. The word overtook, that's the same word to cling. To, as we read it in Deuteronomy, to hold fast, to stick to. That's another way to translate it. So the concept here is to pursue, and when you reach the person, or in this case, the one you were pursuing, you don't let go. You attach yourself to them. Let me show you another verse. Genesis 34, 3. Genesis 34, 3. This is the case of Dinah. You may remember Dinah, daughter of Jacob, sister of all of the 12 boys, and how this guy came and raped her. And so it says that this guy, was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. This is sick. This is twisted. But I want you to see this, that it says that he was deeply attracted. In the Hebrew, it says that his soul was attached to her. So I want us to see this attachment, this emotional attachment. I'm sure that I'm not the only one that as a teenager found himself or herself emotionally attached to the girl or the guy, the quarterback, the cheerleader. And they wouldn't even know your name, right? So the concept here is this attachment that takes place. So strong. We know this strong emotion of falling in love with someone, almost in love that is not really love, almost in a sick kind of way, right? Well, if you turn that around and put it in a marriage context, that's what we're talking about here. A clinging to the Lord as our husbands. Our husband, singular. That is the solution that we need to pursue in our lives so as to not fall for the deception, the allure, the opening of the door that's happening in our society and in our world today. It will get worse. It will. It's prophesied. It's in Scripture. Even some of the elect will be deceived if possible. We must cling to Him. Amen. We must have our soul cling to Him. Amen. Our emotions need to be so healthy that we may be able to properly love Him and not be offended at the difficulties that will come our way. That's the solution. To cling to the Lord, to love the Lord. That is the Shema. Love the Lord, cling to Him, fear Him. That's hearing God. Next week, I want us to talk a little deeper into this issue of idolatry, apostasy, as we see it in the Ten Commandments. We're going to see the Ten Commandments in chapter 5. So we're going to be in the Ten Commandments. Because David, in Psalm 119, speaks about the Ten Commandments in ways that you and I have no clue. The Ten Commandments are designed to do such a work, a thorough work in us, in our soul, in our spirit. And this work is so conducive to our attachment to our husband, to our Lord. Amen. So, study up next week. Read up on the Ten Commandments. And we're going to be there together. Let me pray for us.